ago.
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, and I feel like it just started too. So the fact that we're already,
I don't remember there being many. I don't pay attention to HBO like currently. That I'm not
Right.
that heavily of an HBO watcher to where I'm watching everything that they're putting out originally. But I don't remember a lot of HBO shows ever doing 7 episodes in a season. That's very rare.
Aside from Game of Thrones, I think that's really
But
about
that
it.
was when they would split them, though. It'd be like
Yeah.
part 1, part 2. I think
Yeah.
they did that with Sopranos too at the end.
Carrie
Okay.
Sopranos, by the way.
The Sopranos final season was like your regular 20 episodes, but they did the split up where like the first half was like the usual HBO 10 episodes or whatever, and then it was that weird, like shows do that, like Netflix is doing this, like every Netflix show is 8 episodes, but then now they're doing the split parts.
Oh my god, yeah, Wednesday season 2 is going to be split. Oh my god, I hate it. It drives me nuts.
With Cobra Kai, and then they don't market the second half, and then you like forget that.
I haven't finished Cobra Kai for that reason.
I haven't
either. We've never covered a Netflix series before ever. We never have.
For the best,
we covered Daredevil. Yeah, we did.
Oh, that's awesome. That's right. You guys existed when Daredevil was still on Netflix. That's crazy.
No, we actually just recently did it. So we.
You went back. You went back.
Yeah. To get ready for Born Again. To get ready for Born Again.
Oh, that's cool.
That's good.
I don't. There's nothing wrong with that. If there was one show that I think is worth revisiting in like a rewatch
Daredevil
format or whatever, I think Daredevil is one of them. And there's people a lot of people like that show. So you're always going to find at least a small audience, that are going to be interested in seeing that content being talked about years later. You know what I'm saying?
I think it was better the second time.
Daredevil has some pretty dedicated fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do. It's funny because it took watching Daredevil Born Again for the second time to get me to finally pick my favorite Marvel character, which is now Daredevil. I didn't have one until then. I was always like, I'm more of a DC guy, but I've loved Marvel and stuff. But finally, it took me to go through the second time, and I'm like, yep, no, this confirms it. This is my favorite MCU or Marvel character, period. So now I'm like going through all the comic books, like deep diving and all of that stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Hey folks, we're wading directly into the in-studio conversation here on the MCU'S Video YouTube channel and podcast. A little cold start B-roll style intro here for the show. So it is Wednesday, 5/21/2025. I'm here with Andres, the pop culture guy. I'm Jeff S, aka TrueKnowledge. I'm the co-host of the MCU'S Bleeding Edge. And we have with us Hop's Geek News Podcast YouTube channel. Thank you very much, Matt, Lauren, for joining us tonight. We appreciate having you on for the first time. So that's always wonderful. Hopefully we'll have you back for a second time at some point on something else in the future. The guys over at Hop Geeks News cover a lot of the same stuff that we do and watch a lot of television. I'm sure probably down the road we'll cross paths again, on some other TV. So we're here to talk about The Last of Us, obviously season 2. Episode 6, and I'll start off by just, since you guys are here for your first time covering The Last of Us with us, I'll start off by asking you guys, and we are waiting for my co-host Cyberneticshark, by the way, to go ahead and moderate the show. I'm just stepping in for right now. When he steps in, he's going to take over. Guys, I'll start with you, Lauren. What's your general thoughts about The Last of Us? You can say what you want, or take as much time as you want about season 1. Where are you at with season 2 through episode 6? I guess compare and contrast, and what are your general thoughts, and what do you think about episode 6?
So I did not watch the game. I did not play the game, and I have avoided all spoilers of the game. Matt is the opposite. He has watched or has played the game, and he has been sworn to secrecy to not ruin anything for me. So I absolutely loved season 1. I fell in love almost immediately. I was very familiar with both the characters from Game of Thrones, and obviously Pedro Pascal's everywhere now as, Din Djarin and all that fun stuff. And I thought the first season was absolutely fantastic. Every episode was so good. I felt like there was standalone stories in each episode, so every single one stood out individually as well as a whole. And then season 2 has been very different. I haven't disliked it, but it hasn't pulled me in the way that season 1 did. Obviously we're talking spoilers here since we're on episode 6 now. When they killed Joel, I didn't believe it. I thought, oh, he's gonna get back up. This is the main character. They can't kill him. I thought, no,
it was Mufasa. Get up.
Yeah, right. I was Simba in that scene. Like, come on, Dad, we gotta go home. But I'm like watching the golf club go through the neck, and I'm still thinking like, no, he'll be fine. And then it took me a minute to realize, oh my God, they did that. And my 12-year-old's been watching with us, and she's like, oh yeah, I knew that. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, I looked, and she had watched all the stuff from the game, and I was like, well, good job for you not telling me. She's like, well, you screamed at me because I told you some basic thing from season 1. So I have still been liking it, just not as much as season 1. And this last one was interesting. I felt like it was a little out of place. And I know we even mentioned this right before we hit live, but I feel like they held off on it just because I know there are people that are going to stop watching because Pedro Pascal's gone. So it felt a little out of place. Like we were mourning him and now we're back full in it. I was glad that we got the apology scene or the trying to be, forgiving scene. I was glad that we saw that, he didn't just pass away thinking Ellie hated him. I did enjoy the past memories, but they did feel a little out of place for me.
Okay. Thank you. Matt.
Yeah, it's funny because I did play the games like Lauren said, and sitting on the knowledge ever since it was initially announced that they're doing on this, I didn't tell her. I'm sitting there like it kills me every time we would talk about the show. I would almost slip up, but remembering, and so I'm sitting there waiting for that episode to come out just to get Lauren's reaction. And so I was texting her, "Did you finish yet? Did you finish yet?" And finally, she's like, "What the heck?" And it was done very beautifully. And season 1 I really liked. I thought they were going beat for beat with the game. Everything with season 1 was awesome. Season 2 I've enjoyed. I feel like a little bit of the pacing's been off slightly, but overall, I mean, the acting has been phenomenal. Getting to those moments of tension that you get in the game, where with the stalkers, for example, those things drove me nuts in the game, or the bloater, and how they did certain sequences, such as Jackson Hole, how that whole thing went down. It's getting to see the differences, and then of course Pedro Pascal. I mean, it was just like Lauren said. We had people in our group being like, "Oh, well, I'm not watching this because Pedro's out." And I was like, "Guys, don't worry. There's a lot of flashbacks at least." And that's what the last episode leaned into, is one of the most important flashbacks out of the entire game. And the way they did it was just very beautiful. And getting to see now everybody realizing this is a story about Ellie. And it's always been kind of an Ellie driven story, regardless of who is playing Joel. And it's very, very good and very cool getting to see them act. Cause I think, Ellie and Joel, Pedro, and, they have a lot of chemistry and they work really well together. So I always enjoy the scenes of just emotionality and those beats of, the emotions that they really brought to this episode and the series so far.
All right. Andre's the pop culture guy. You may not have much to say about the Last of Us season 2 in general, but at the very least, I'm sure you probably have thoughts about episode 6. So what do you think about, episode 6?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, now we're up to 6 episodes, and next week's the finale, which is kind of crazy.
Snuck up on us.
Yeah, snuck up on us. Yeah, I mean, me and Jeff and the MCU has been reviewing Andor, and that's 12 episodes. And I'm like, oh man, I feel like I there's like this week is like the 6th episode. I'm really enjoying season 2. I kind of agree with you both that it's not as good as the first season. I mean, it's tough. I mean, because that first season was a huge shock for everyone, and like people don't understand this. This is a video game adaptation. This was a huge success. Like it showed that you can do video game adaptations just like the comic book movies. That was that thing. It was a huge surprise, and especially for this game, which is a big franchise. So yeah, I agree what you were saying, Matt. The pacing is a little off in certain, like one of our guests brought this up. I think from actually our Walking Dead City, when he brought up like there was always episodes where it's like you got nothing going on. It was always filler, and then you got the big ones where I was like, oh, okay, like obviously was it episode 4? Yeah, like episode 4 we got introduced to Jeffrey Wright's character. Obviously,
oh yeah,
it was cool to see his character and like the Wolf's leader from the game, and that was really great. I love that whole opening. That was awesome. And
Isaac is awesome. Isaac was really awesome, and Jeffrey Wright. Yeah. Oh, he's so menacing, man. He was awesome.
And I didn't see that coming at all. That was beautifully done.
Yeah, I know. And Josh Peck was in it like just in 1 minute. I was like,
that was a surprise right there. I was like, wait a second, Megan.
It was so funny. I was like, wait a minute, is that Drake from Drake and Josh? Or I was like, oh my god.
I didn't know who y'all were talking about.
Yeah, Josh Peck he was one of the cops in the beginning there.
No, he was the one that was not a very nice dude.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. No. It was so funny when you tell that story. It was like, oh my god. Yeah, so and then you got episode 5. That was really cool. It was the the same beat to beat from the game. Where Ellie and Vinny were like trying to find one of the Firefly members that killed Joe in the hospital scene, and like that was great. And seeing the smart infected, like that was a great episode, and that also had a great cold opener as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I really agree. Episode 6 was fantastic. I think this is hands down the best of this season. I mean, I think second after episode 2. I don't think you can really top episode 2. But it just really shows how good this show is. Great dialogue, great writing. The performances by both Pedro Pascal and Belly Ramsey is fantastic. Like all around, like this is why like you fell in love with these characters and the show in general. It's just these two, and yeah, it's gonna be sad to see. I mean, I am kind of curious.
Do I need to unplug my headphones? Are you going to do a game spoiler?
Yeah. No. Well, and by the way, I haven't played the game either. I had to go through the gameplay as well. I haven't finished part 2 yet, so
I'm sure he'll be around in more flashbacks just to keep that audience into, because they have that connection. You can always make flashbacks up.
Yeah, I know. Well, but then this episode just kind of like, I don't know, like they kind of done everything in this one episode. This is kind of like the last time we're going to probably see him, because there's other focus, like obviously I don't want to root in Lauren like what's going to happen, but there's a perspective going to happen that hasn't yet happened this season that I think is going to happen next season. But
Abby's perspective, don't we?
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah,
I think I didn't know. I was expecting more of that, and I'm actually surprised how little we've seen Abby, because I think Matt did mention that season 2 was about Abby, or part 2 is about Abby, and we haven't seen her.
Yeah, they really stick it to you after watching, Joel gets murdered, and then they make you play as Abby for a little bit in the game, just to really, twist the knife a bit. And so I have a feeling that season 3, and they've even actually, it's not even really a spoiler. They've already talked about it. Season 3 is going to feature a lot more of Abby and Caitlin Devers. So I think that's why a lot of it, because they've announced that it's going to go 4 seasons to tell the story that they want to tell. And season 3 will probably be the main focus of Abby. And we're really going to get to dive into her a lot, which I'm pretty excited for.
Yeah.
So as much as I love the actor who plays Falcon now in the MCU, I absolutely hated him in the scene when Pedro was killed. So I'm really hoping that his character doesn't last long, because I love that actor so much, and I love him so much as Falcon, and he was just getting under my skin and making me so mad that I don't want to see him being mean.
I didn't think he was very good as Falcon, to be honest with you. He's going to have to really, I don't know, be a little bit more funny or something, like when he's in the Avengers. Because I didn't think he was all that good in Captain America 4, but that's just my opinion, to be honest with you. If you like him, then good for you.
Yeah.
I like him. I think he's just still getting, he's still in his training pants. He's still kind of learning the ropes.
They didn't focus a lot on him.
I didn't like his costume either. Not that that's his fault, but I'm just saying I didn't like his costume.
It could also be he's a Miami Heat fan, and he's a Miami Heat fan, and I'm also from Miami. So when I saw that, I got excited.
You guys can cut her out anytime.
Andre, did you have anything else to say?
Oh yeah. What else? I was very happy. Last thing, this is how you pay off your important questions that people ask about. This is something that a lot of shows don't do. That's very frustrating. Like Westworld had this problem. Like for 4 seasons, it just took forever for them to like even answer.
Do you think people were dying to see what happened with Joel killing that guy or something like that? Like, I don't think so.
I think there was a lot of questions. Yeah.
I mean, because that was set up in the first episode, and I was curious, like, what happened. Like of course,
I think it's cool that they structurally delivered and came back and revisited that, and came back and paid homage to it. But I'm just making the point that I don't know if there was a lot of like fan demand, for them to go back, what I mean, specifically and straighten that out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Lauren. No, go ahead.
Fine, you're good.
Oh, okay. No. I get where you're coming from, Jeff. It's not from a fan perspective. It's just for the general audience that see the show, not the gamers. The gamers know what happened. This is different from the game. obviously,
Yeah, the therapist, she was made up for this season specifically. She's not
I'm
even.
talking about the show, the demand for the show. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah, there were people out there asking, what happened. We want to know because she's referenced it and she's obviously helped Joel throughout this season, and Ellie too.
The way they were dwelling on it, I expected it to be more than what it was. I thought that maybe Eugene had found out that Ellie was immune, and that's why he killed him. So I was thinking maybe it was more to it, when really it was just he got infected. So I agree. I feel like they dwelled on it and made it an issue when it wasn't.
Andres, wrap up what you were going to say.
No. So like that's a good example. Of course, it's it for me. I'm a TV viewer, and so I was so happy to answer that question. Also, we got the whole like because last episode, we got to confirm that she knew that Joel did kill the Fireflies from first season. So I was happy that we got that confirmation, and it was satisfied, and it is from the games. And so like that's what I mean. This is a really good example of that. Like, yes, it is filler, or it's not action packed like the other episodes. I mean, if you do a good job of pacing the episode well, and like good do a good job of being dramatic and well done, then it does a really good job of being a sci-fi episode. Like, I mean, I don't want to bring up Dead City, but like last episode was so boring because they didn't have anything that was like spectacular, and they had this twist. I was like, okay, but it was just not as satisfying as like this episode did, where like the twists and turns was like, oh my god, I didn't expect that. Like, I didn't expect, like, now it makes sense why Ellie was angry at him, because it wasn't because he lied about the Fireflies. It was like he did the same lie to her, similar to what like I was like, oh, okay, that makes so sense. Like it so like so overall, just wrapping up, it was a great episode. I'm very curious to talk about this episode with you guys. I was very happy. It's so weird, as this penultimate episode before the finale. But what else are you gonna do?
I think you brought up a really good point too. Something that we were all expecting at the beginning of the season. Ellie was mad, obviously, and so everybody's, it's because she found out about Salt Lake. It's because she found out about Salt Lake. And I thought what they really did well in terms of storytelling was that's not the actual reason. She kind of had a feeling that was what went down wasn't the truth, but it was the fact that he didn't show any humanity, and he kind of lied to her, and he didn't give this guy his dying wish, and he had time, and she even tested, and that's why she was actually mad. And I thought that was really good storytelling to kind of set up that final scene that they had at the end of the episode.
Okay. I don't know. I've been definitely to mirror or bounce off of Lauren, and I think most people who watch the show probably overall, I've been a little bit disappointed with The Last of Us Season 2 compared to the first season, without question. I felt like Season 1 was a lot more consistent episodically. It delivered, I thought, like on a high-end HBO style level, from episode to episode, from week to week. And it was very consistent, I felt like. I know it's been a while since we saw it, so and I haven't rewatched it, to be honest with you, since it came out. So, I mean, it's difficult to really kind of 100%, go back to it. But from what I can remember, everything looks great. It's HBO, so like, The Last of Us looks great. They didn't have this episode didn't have a ton of big visuals, but especially in season 1 and definitely a couple times in season 2, we've seen some really great shots and some great visuals from this show. Seeing anything with the cordyceps is always great. Yeah. That was the one thing that we were lacking in this episode. I felt like was we didn't get the infected in there, at all. I was really hoping that's what Joel and Ellie were doing, when they went on patrol or whatever, in the episode. I was like, okay, great. They're going to end up like, fighting infected, or whatever. That's cool, I was happy with what they did with that. You know what I mean? I'm not complaining about it. But I'm just saying, that's where I thought they were going with it, because they do usually have that balance where they usually do mix in the infected in there, usually every episode to some extent. And I feel like that's good for the show. I think the infected is probably the most popular aspect of the show. I don't know, but I think, I don't know about the game, but I know for, with the show, because of course I never played the games myself. I appreciate your knowledge and your experience with the games, Matt. I think it's great to have your opinion, on the show. great to have you as a resource. In terms of what happens next and things like that nature. You know what I'm saying? Of course, Andres knows a little bit about the games too. Folks, anybody can go on YouTube at any given time, again, to bounce off Lauren and find all of the, all of the actual shots from the game, all of the actual, almost like live action shots or whatever from the game are all right on YouTube. And they're actually pretty fascinating. But all right. Episode 6 of The Last of Us Season 2 is The Price, written by Druckmann, and then Haley Gross and Craig Mazin, and directed by Neil Druckmann on this episode. So just off the Wikipedia blurb, a series of flashbacks detail interactions between Joel and Ellie on her birthday. For her 50th birthday, he gifts her a homemade guitar. On her 16th, he takes her to an abandoned museum. They find a dinosaur and everything, that opens up the view of it for Ellie. I think they did a really good job of de-aging her almost, if you want to go that far in these flashbacks. Making her look younger. Yeah. They did a good job. She's not a very filled out, young woman anyway. So I don't think it was that difficult. But where she becomes enamored with its space exploration exhibits. On her 17th birthday, he angrily interrupts a moment of intimacy between Ellie and another girl, causing tension. And I'll stop there. Now that's when I think that's when she got tattooed and was smoking weed.
Classic teenage stuff, man.
Yeah, that was pretty. Joel's obviously pretty strict, pretty conservative, but I mean, he was definitely shocked in that scene. Obviously, I don't think he expected to see what he saw in there. So I'll go to you first, Andre, since we ended with you last time. I'll let you pick right back up. What'd you think of that opening, sir?
Oh man. I could say
I gave you a big chunk of episode there. That's like a third of the episode. So have that.
Yeah. No, I thought this sequence was really fun. Very good. Oh, first off, this was like Inception. If everyone knows, we were like a dream in a dream, and here we were like a flashback within a flashback. It was crazy. So the 1983 flashback was so cool. The fact that we saw Swordsman from the MCU, Jack Dalton, of course.
Oh yeah, that took me a second. I was like, he looks so familiar. Duh.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was him because he's also in Better Call
what
Saul.
the heck?
Better Call Saul. Yeah.
I did not put that together though. You just blew my mind. That those are
wow.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was like, oh my god, he's in this show and he's the father of Joel. I was like, yes, that's perfect casting. I could see that. And we get the scene where something happened. Tommy's like, oh my god, he's gonna hit me and with me. I'm like, what the hell? I was like,
she burned herself.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm talking about Tommy, the flashback we're talking about, the 1983 one. But yeah. So Tommy, the young Tommy version is worried because the dad will probably hit him, and then Joel, he is like the hero that we love. He's like, I'm gonna take the blunt, I'm gonna take the hit. And it's like, and I was like, whoa, okay. And then when I was like, oh my god, the dad's coming, and it's like the shadow, and then we like pans up, and I was like, oh my god, it's the guy from Better Call Saul. I was like, oh my god, Scaramanga. I was like, oh my god, no. And then totally unexpected, like very emotional scene where, look, the reason I do hit you, and parents do this, like, it's a sense of authority, it's just telling your kids, like, look, don't make this mistake, this huge mistake you just did, this crying, whatever, my dad, and the reason he's telling this to Joel is that, look, I do it, but I don't go as far as my dad did, really hurting me. And I totally get why, because then he tells him, be a better man than I am. And you're going to see from looking at the flashback moving forward with him and Ellie, he's trying to be the good dad he is, and, that's one of the things I like about Joel. He's a father figure, he's he lost the daughter in the pilot, and it's so sad. And when he meets up Ellie, he tries his best to not be connected, but then he started to become more father again, with her. So it's this full circle thing. I was like, oh my god, this makes sense why he's try his best to be the good man he is, And then jumping into the aftermath of season 1, seeing him helping out with the birthday, which was so cool. I miss those moments because she's always funny. Ellie, with Joel, with the, it's like, oh, I want to get this. And like when she brought up the convertible, I was like, you're funny. I was like, why are you gonna use the convertible in the zombie apocalypse? That was really funny. And then of course, I haven't gone that far. The dinosaur scene was like so cute. I was like, oh my god, it's her is like, oh my god, that's a fucking dinosaur, and she went up there. It was like, oh my god, that's cool. And of course, if you don't pay attention, right? This is a great payoff from last season because she loved, she talked about space. She knew about the space, astronauts. She named like a couple of them, like Armstrong. If you know your astronaut names, like not me, I'm like, yeah, she brought up, the famous one. And so that was really cool, Joe, doing that. It's like she loves space. And now I'm taking that, the astronaut museum was really cool. And I thought that was like, such a perfect birthday. And I thought this was such a great adaptation from the game, which was cool, of the museum. And I thought he was going to give him the music when they were in the space shuttle. I was like, oh, maybe David Bowie's Spaceman. I was like,
yeah.
I was thought the same thing.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And then no, it was this cool thing of like showing the launch recording of like the people say, oh, you're launching up space. That was a really cool way to do that. So I really dug that. And then just wrapping up, of course, jumping to I guess this was the other birthday, 17 or something. The time I kind of wish we had the dates of like the
so right. Space one was 16. You're 17. Right. 17.
Okay, 17. Okay, because I was kind of like, okay, so all right, I was right. But still, I kind of wish we had Tire Plus, but whatever. But yeah, so when we get to that, I was like, oh man, no, she get I was like, oh, she's with Lei, so he knows about her like sexuality, which makes sense. Of course, if you don't know from the game, and then this season, of course, that's the other character. Was it Grace or I? Oh my god, this is gonna drive me nuts. But the former ex-girlfriend that Ellie was with before she dated Jesse, and then before Deneen, of course, during this season. So that was a good payoff, and then and she was the one that gave the tattoo. That was kind of cool. I don't know if that's from the games, but that was really nice. And then of course, smoky weed. It's part of the kids. It's nothing. I was like, oh, of course she's gonna smoke. Weed it's not a big thing. She's a kid, and it was very funny. And I mean, of course, you're gonna have that relationship with your kid. It's like at that point, she wants to be independent and and do things that maybe it will be unethical to do at under their parents' roof. But like so overall, I thought the beginning sequence was really fun. It was great shock to see the swordsmith slash Sanemaga, the actor, being here as Joel's father was really cool. I really liked that touch. So it was a great opener for this episode, I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Cyber, how you doing, sir? Listen, I'm moderating, so I might as well just keep on going.
Okay.
Basically, what we're talking about is the opening of the episode 6. Just to get you in the game, all the way up until Ellie's 17th birthday, when she gets caught experimenting with the tattoo and the weed and having sex or whatever with the lesbian chick. That's where we're at, sir. So if you would like to jump in and opine on that intro, and then that rest of that third of the episode, feel free.
Okay. So for me, this episode was kind of interesting that they decided to do a flashback finally and bring back Joel. So I'm sure everyone was very excited to finally see Joel again, because everyone's been pining for him since his death in episode 2. So seeing him was great. It was fun to see him. And the fact that they decided to do kind of like this, going back to some of her birthdays, I was kind of like, this is interesting what they decided to show. Like, not really focus on maybe when she learned she knew that Joel had did what he did, kind of being the main part of the episode you think it would be, but not really going into her sexuality and all this kind of stuff. And I was just kind of like, You should have just focused on that story. It would have been great. But I think this beginning sequence, like I found the shuttle thing. I'm sure everyone loves the shuttle thing, but I found that boring as hell. I thought that was like the stupidest thing ever. I mean, what she's turning 16. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, isn't that more like something you would take like 11 or 12-year-old to, maybe a 10-year-old, maybe not a 16-year-old. So I was kind of like, okay, if that's what you think's cool. But I did think it was cool. He put together the guitar. I thought that was really cool. And that he found all those parts, put the engraving in it with the butterfly and everything, or the moth. And it was great to see Catherine O'Hara again as the psychiatrist lady, and him like briefly talking to her for a second. I thought that was kind of interesting. And but I think overall, like what I got out of this section of the, is it was kind of definitely filler at the same time as it was giving you some information, giving you a little bit more insight into their relationship. I get it. But I felt that they could have focused it more on just like one birthday, maybe prior to them, going in different directions, and her being all uppity and stuff like that. Like I feel they could have centered more on the 17th birthday versus the previous birthday. But other than that, I thought it was pretty mediocre. I felt it was pretty not fun. To me, it was pretty much filler, and I just didn't think it was anything that great, but it did have some good components throughout it that I thought were interesting. And I did find it funny that when Joel busted into her room when has been working on the tattoo and doing whatever she was doing with the girl, I think that was kind of funny that he was like, "You don't know that you are." I thought that was kind of interesting, that he was very dad-like there. And I definitely thought that was very telling of the character itself. So I think that was a pretty decent part there that really stuck with me after watching it. Otherwise, I think it's pretty filler.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Matt.
I think so. Something that I just kind of thought of was, I think that this episode would have hit a lot harder had they done it as episode 3, right after Joel's death. And I really, this whole sequence is showing that Joel is still clinging to, humanity in a way. And it really shows that in season 1, he didn't care about Ellie really. Season 2, he's come to show and see her as his own daughter. So he's trying to make, despite everything that has happened, make birthdays good for her, which I thought was a really nice touch, and they're not living a normal life anymore. And so to take her to these science museums, to give her that sense of being a kid, because she grew up, she never had a chance to actually be a kid. And I think that was what he was trying to do for her. Give her these birthdays, show her these things, let her have that freedom from the burden of, oh, I'm immune, the burden of the fact that we're living in this post-apocalyptic world. And that's kind of what he was doing. And then it got to the point where obviously he became and slipped into like this actual dad mode when he does find her with, the other girl and getting tattoos and, drugs, everything, like, which is funny, this post-apocalyptic world. And he's worried about her smoking weed. It's like, man, it's legalized, it's federal, don't have to worry about that anymore at this point. But it really showed the humanity, and it really brought their relationship closer for the audience, I think. And it probably would have hit a lot harder for some folks if they have done it as episode 3 versus 6. But it shows you also the whole point of Ellie in the second game is and it's going to set up the future. She is so emotionally driven to the point it's going to ruin her relationships. And this is why. It shows why she does the things that she does going forward and why she's in Seattle right now. It's because that was her father. She lost her dad, and it's showing the other side of things and showing their relationship, because we never really got their relationship side of things. We got them running and getting their way from, the East Coast, Boston, to Salt Lake City, to Jackson Hole. And now this is them covering that 5-year gap, showing that they actually had a life together and what it actually means and why they are in Seattle at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Lauren.
So I agree it should have been done sooner because I feel like we had moved on from Pedro or from Joel, and I think we all expected there to be flashbacks. We all expected there to be more explanation, but not to this level. I did enjoy the flashbacks to an extent, but I do feel they were dragged out a little bit because I do think that, if I saw an interview years ago with Walking Dead and they're like, yeah, everybody wants us to be happy, but then it becomes a sitcom. But it's still nice to get those moments of seeing, the happiness, seeing everybody in Walking Dead having dinner together, seeing Joel and Ellie have these good moments. And, it reminds you why you love these characters and why you love the relationship. And I do think, too, these kids growing up in Apocalypse, and like we're seeing this in Dead City with Herschel and with Ginny, they're more mature than kids today, but they're also less mature as well because they didn't have a childhood. So it's like, Ellie got this, we're seeing her get these little bits of actual childhood that she never really got because she was raised by like the Fedra system, basically. So I think it was really good to see both of them grow. And I loved going back to Joel's dad. My mind is still blown that it's this Better Call Saul guy, the same guy from Hawkeye. Like, kudos to that actor. He did such a phenomenal job just playing two incredibly different roles. Yeah, I mean, he's so goofy in that. And then in Better Call Saul, he's scary. But he came in and you're expecting him to just start beating the kids. And I thought it was such a beautiful scene where he explains to Joel, like, he's trying to break the cycle. And
I never did that to that extent. Like, he didn't do it as abuse.
He's making excuses for himself, but he's also saying, like, I'm trying to do better. When it's your turn, I hope you do a little better. And then you see Joel at the end pass that on to Ellie. And I think going from that to that was a beautiful transition. Mm-hmm. But I do think it was a little drug out a little, and I think they're just milking Pedro for every second they can get out of him at this point.
Okay, most definitely. So, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to. I typically, for the most part, do usually enjoy, entire flashback type episodes. They, depending on the show, some of them are actually pretty interesting. I don't have a problem with how this episode went down. But my only, to bounce off Matt, my only question is the placement of this flashback episode. One episode away from the finale of the season. That's kind of where I'm at with it. I just don't know. I think that Matt's right. They probably would have been better off doing this in episode 4. Personally, I think it would have made sense better for like the flow of the season episodically. But so coming off of the 17th birthday, on Ellie's 19th birthday, he takes her out on her first patrol. They encounter Gail's husband Eugene, who has been bitten. Joel promises Ellie that he will lead Eugene back to Jackson to say goodbye to Gail, but Joel instead leads Eugene away and executes him. So Joel lies to Gail that Eugene chose to kill himself rather than endanger her. And Ellie, now realizing he lied about the Fireflies, reveals the truth to Gail. So I'll stop there, and I will go back to you, Lauren. What are your thoughts on that sort of, middle to, third quarter section of the episode?
Well, I thought it was very interesting because obviously this whole time until Ellie says, I knew Joel did that, we're assuming that, that's why she was mad at Joel. So, but I don't think what Joel did was terrible. I think he was trying to protect the community. I think he genuinely did give the guy a nice moment where he's like, oh, I can see my wife, and he took him to a nice view. I mean, there's really no great way to put a person down. And like, again, this isn't The Walking Dead. When they turn, they're fast, they're quick. Like, it makes sense you didn't want to bring him back, but he did promise Ellie and he broke a promise. And I think with Ellie, it was, she even said it, you promised. I think it was just that trust there because he is the only person in the entire world she can trust. And he broke her trust and he didn't see it as a big deal. He's like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to tell. And I understand he was protecting Catherine O'Hara in that moment and he was protecting the town and he truly did feel like what he was doing was right. But he lied and he knew he wasn't going to follow through when he promised it. So I think it was a very important moment to show the broken trust there and why Ellie was acting the way she was.
Okay. Cyber.
All right. So this section here, we get kind of a good idea of what happened between Gail and Joel, why she's so mad at him about executing her husband. We get to see that. like what happened to Eugene and everything. And I thought that was kind of fun. It was nice to see, exactly what happened. And so I thought that was a great part of a flashback, most definitely, because then it gives you a little more understanding of Gale's hatred for Joel and stuff like that. And it gives you a little bit better idea of kind of Gale's background a little bit too. And then, basically, once again, Joel aligned to Ellie again, which he's done before. We all have seen it in the previous season. We've seen it throughout this season, etc. And stuff like that. It's all part of that fatherly figure fail. I'm trying to protect you. I got to lie to you type of deal, and fortunately that backfires on him. And, that's too bad. But I think that, Joel protecting the clan was a good idea. Taking Eugene and killing him before he could affect anybody was the right thing to do. Kind of like, him to save Ellie, he had to kill those people. It's that same type of mentality. You unfortunately got to sacrifice these people in order to save hundreds of more, type of thought process. So I think that was, good on Joel's part, really trying to, do better for the community. I think that all in all, it's not too shabby of a section. I think this was probably the most interesting part of the section for me, that kind of drew me in and actually kind of made me interested in the episode, especially, when it comes to getting to our endpoint of the section. And it really kind of ignites the fire to where this is leading. So I feel that what this ends up leading into at the end of the episode is really the great climax of this kind of backtracking episode that gives us some decent stuff for a flashback.
Yeah.
Okay. Matt, I was going to go to you next anyways, brother.
Yeah, it all makes sense. I thought it was really interesting to see that side of Joel. And honestly, I don't blame him for doing what he did. Again, I think he's justified, because he even mentions, he has to keep everybody safe. And he has seen living in Boston and all his life, he's seen what could happen. And so for him, he's trying to protect Ellie, who's his daughter. He's trying to protect his brother that he's gotten back, and the safety of the life that they have now lived comfortably in. And so I don't really necessarily blame him. He could have done it very differently, but at the same time too, he kind of lies to Gale to protect her from the truth. She doesn't need to know how he went out, other than, hey, he's dead. There's nothing more you need to do. And so Ellie, I get it. She's, for lack of a better term, she's immature. She did what she thought was right. Calling Joel out. She was very upset at the time, and felt that she needed to make it known what actually happened, which then again, I don't also blame her either. And so it shows the duality of both of them, and it shows what led their relationship. Like I mentioned earlier, we thought it was because of Salt Lake City, but no, it was actually because of this moment. And so to get to see this moment, they had alluded to Eugene. They had, how Gale had mentioned how she hates Joel, but she's helping him anyways. And I think she hates that her husband died. But I do think the reason why she's helping is because a part of her also has forgave him in a sense and understands he had to do what he had to do at that moment. And it's just a very lose-lose situation. What do you do in that situation? But I also thought, they share a good moment on the horseback, and then they go down, and I do wish they had added a couple, maybe infected. But the big thing about this is that the infected are kind of a side plot anyways to this entire story. Which I know, but a lot of people who haven't played the games probably don't really understand, because you're sold one thing, so you're expecting that. So I do wish because the costume designs and everything are excellent, but I thought it was a very good moment. I thought it made a lot of sense. And then to just show that again, Bella Ramsey, they have such a fantastic, they're really good at showing emotions, as it's going toe to toe with Pedro and showing the sadness and the anger. I thought it was excellent.
Okay. Andre's the pop culture guy.
Yes. Oh man, I was like so stoked because when the scene was proceeding, because I was like, okay, you know, it was the 19th birthday. I was like, okay, you know, we see, you know, the kid getting ready and, you know, probably asking questions about the events of season 1. I was like, oh, okay, you know, all right, she kind of knows, right? And you know, that makes sense. And yeah, then when the patrol was happening, I was like, okay. And then when we got to Eugene, I was like, oh, okay. You know, obviously it was very at this part I do know what happened to Eugene. You know, spoilers, you haven't seen the game, you know, he died off screen, you know, because like in the games, instead of Jesse, it was actually Dean with Ellie, and they solved like the was it the weed factory that Eugene was making, and and they revealed like this, you know, that, and then, you know, and so it was very different from this show. I was kind of curious, what was gonna do, and you know, we saw like the hints of like, oh, we saw the wife, and the wife hates him because he, you know, Joe, you know, was the one to kill. I was like, okay, what's really this all about? And then of course we get the scene, and then of course I was like, oh my god, I see what is going on here. And like, you know, like, you know, I agree with you guys. You know, Joe, you know, was doing his best to protect the community. Like, yeah, I kind of agree with that, but I disagree with the part where like, why, like, it's almost like the superhero thing of like, you're gonna promise them something. It's like you cannot hold your promise. You know, like the fact that he promised Ellie that, look, nothing will happen to him. The way he did it, no, similar to the conversation she had during season 1, that like, you did this because, you know, there was Raiders and all that, and there was other, you know, like, and she did get a sense that he like, and it's like, why do you do that? You know, she's smart, you know, and that was the fault of Joel being blinded, you know. Yeah, so I was like, oh my god. And then of course when she said like, look, okay, I will watch him over, you know, and, you know, go get, you know, the horses or whatever, you know, or some of the people from the town to come back, right? And oh man, I was like, oh, of course he's gonna like, when it was like The Walking Dead season 4 when Carol killed that
flowers.
Kid, like, look at the flowers, you know. I was like, oh no, don't do it. And like, he's like,
just look at the pretty mountains out there, Eugene. Look at the water.
I was like, oh my god, it just triggered my mind. I was like, oh my god, the mouse man. I was like, oh my god, look at there. Don't look at me. And like, and of course, you know, and brilliant direction by the creator of the game. Actually, the director that did this episode is the creator of the game, The Last of Us.
Yep.
And great direction of like toning out the gunshot. Like, it's so obvious when you hear the gunshot. It's like, oh yeah, he died. I like that.
Yeah, the birds. The silent birds. Yeah.
Yeah, the birds. Like, literally, you could tell. Like, okay, like he did happen. Like, killed him. You know, and I love that. That was great direction. And yeah, and of course, you know, Ellie, you know, she has these moments from first season and this season. You know, she's very, like, very, like very outspoken and like, you know, very emotional sometimes in situations. And like, this was one of them. It's like why you want to like her about, you know, what her husband say, you know, and you know, she, you know, of course, if she was in Joel's shoes, you know, she, you know, understand like you cannot do what, you know, like, you know, of course they're gonna be denial. So I was very shocked about like the reason she hates it, because, you know, she found out the truth what happened. And you know, I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And you know, later on we'll get to the porn scene, it made sense that she knew all along. It was just like, you know, it was kind of like she wanted Joel to like take the chance as a person to like tell the truth and like be an honest man that, you know, she thought he was, you know, for the season. And of course she was, you know, disappointed about the results. And you know, it's a tough situation for her to understand that, look, you know, you have to sacrifice and make these difficult decisions. So very fantastic scene. I really enjoy it. I mean, it was well directed, and you know, the few minutes we had of Joe Pantoliano, great actor. I mean, of course, he was funny in Bad Boys movies, and he was great as Ben Urich in the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie. And he's in that movie as Ben. And then, of course, he was in The Sopranos, which we brought up. He's great in that show. And in a few minutes, he he sold Eugene and that devastation. Like, I want to talk to my wife, and then when he say I saw my wife, it was like, oh, that killed me. I was like so emotional. So yeah, fantastic. Like, again, when I say before payoff, if these like little seeds they did, this was a great payoff for me. This was like, I know it wasn't like a big deal, but like, I mean, when you mentioned that this Joe killed Eugene, I was like, we have to see something. But why?
Yeah.
Why did the therapist didn't like him, and the fact she was helping him, and it made a lot of sense. And Catherine Hoeta, a great actress, love her, Beetlejuice, and she's Greek, and she really delivered a performance in this episode.
Oh yeah,
briefly.
And I love that they named the husband Eugene. I like to think that was a Schitt's Creek nod.
Oh yeah,
Levy. I don't know if that was intentional, but I hope it was.
Oh no, that was from the game. He was named.
So it's just a coincidence.
But it is a coincidence that we got her. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so to wrap up episode 6, the way that we end up is essentially 9 months later, after the realization of what happened with the Fireflies, after the New Year's Eve dance, and all the bullshit that happened, the drama that happened there. Ellie confronts Joel about his actions at the hospital. He tearfully confesses to everything, but admits he has no regrets about his decisions. She says she does not think that she can forgive him, but would like to try. And then in the present, in a very short scene, we see Ellie returning to the theater from the Wolves, hospital base. So I'll go to you first, Matt. What are your thoughts on the ending of the episode?
It's a very big moment from the game. It's one of the most important moments from the game, and I've been waiting for this moment between the two of them, and I'm really glad the way it played out. It was, I don't know that I can forgive you, but I'm going to try, and that's probably the most realistic thing anybody could have ever said. It's not I forgive you, it's I'm gonna try. And that right there shows a lot of growth, and it shows that moment. And the emotion that Pedro Pascal is showing there, hey, I did this because I love you. He says it out loud. I did this because I love you. It was very, very heavy hitting, and I think that's when everything really hit for her was, oh wow, he really is my dad. I think for her it was just that was the moment for her that she finally saw him as her dad, whereas he had been viewing her as his daughter this whole time. And that's what sold it. And that's why she had that change and was like, I'm going to try my best. And then unfortunately, as we know, days later, everything came crashing down, and it's what's going to drive the rest of this story to the finish line and pay off in the end. It was so good that the both of them acted so well in that scene on the porch.
Okay. Going back to you, Andre's a pop culture guy.
Yeah. So this scene, when we flash back to the pilot episode with the New Year's Eve, right? I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna get the payoff, and I haven't seen far of the game about this moment, so this is my first time experiencing that moment here, and oh my god, it was so beautiful. I mean, Pedro Pascal is a great actor. I mean, I love him. He's only the best thing about Wonder Woman 1984, for God's sake. I mean, I remember that line. It's like, we can do better, like that's like iconic because of what he did. It's so funny. But he's so incredible actor. I'm so excited to see his version of Dr. Richards. And he was the best part about this show. The only reason I got through to the show is because of him. And he's so fantastic. And he just brings so much heart and, depth to this character, Joe, and I could not see who else could play this character. And yeah, I really appreciate the payoff. Like the fact that she was going, like I thought initially from the pilot, she went, past him to her, barn, garage, house, whatever you want to call it, and then she turned back and I was like, oh, okay, and they had their little talk, and then I was like, oh, and she, Joel did confess, to like really confirm it for her. And then I was surprised that the moment she, I cannot forgive you, but I will try. And I was like, oh my God, I need it. And, and yeah, man, you brought up a good point that, yeah, like they kind of confirmed their, our father-daughter now, like they didn't want to admit that, because, like obviously Joel didn't want to admit to that because, he still loves Sarah, from, I mean, his,
right.
but slowly he accepted Ellie as his surrogate daughter, and and he kind of accepted it very quickly, but he didn't thought about Ellie, like she doesn't know, she went through a lot of shit as well. I mean, like losing her best friend, I mean, her mom died in childbirth, be infected, and it's just crazy for Ellie, and she never had the, as you guys were bringing up before, a normal childhood, compared to her other peers, like but they are living in apocalypse, but they're living more like a stable one than she has been, and and she, despite hating being like, being a pet, like a rat pet, you call it, but she thought she was doing the right thing and have a purpose to save people, and the fact that Joel took that away and killed them, for for really good reasons. I mean, the fact she was going to do that surgery, that going to kill her, as we got, from Marlene. It was so powerful, and it was like one of the best moments from this episode I will ever remember. Well directed. I think they totally deliver a great emotional episode that is like saying goodbye to Joe, and like you're dead, like I want Abby to die, and I know what happened to her in the game. I'm like, I hope they change it. It's like, no, I want her to die too. Like, please, but yeah, that's all I had to say. Great sequence. I was happy they confirmed that she knows, and they were hoping to patch up, but unfortunately they couldn't do it, which is sad.
Okay. Lauren.
So I would say this last scene was the best part of the show for basically all the reasons Andres just said. It was just incredibly emotional. Both the actors did a phenomenal job delivering it. We've really seen Ellie go from cargo to baby girl, and, him telling her, because I love you and I would do it all again. And we all knew how Ellie would react. Marlene even said, Ellie would make this choice if you let her make this choice. Like, she's going to be mad at you for doing that. And he knew that. And, he would still, because, as a parent, you would do anything to protect your kid. And that was, just proof thereof. But I just thought that her saying, like, I'll try, was just such an honest answer. And just to say, you seeing that relief on his face where, she's going to try, he has that moment, he has that, chance. And I thought it made his death less tragic, knowing that they had that a little bit of closure. And so it makes sense that there's like more gas in the fire to make her more angry, because she was going to try to patch this relationship and fix this relationship. So I think she's mourning the relationship that they didn't get to grow into more so. But I do think that in a healthy world, if she goes sees Catherine O'Hara more, she can use that moment as closure to move on. But obviously that wouldn't be The Last of Us if that were the case. But I thought the whole thing was beautiful. It's like, the whole thing with Sarah, obviously he'll never get over that. And Ellie is now around the age when Sarah had passed away. She's not that much older. And so I think that he really sees, every year that she has another birthday is another year he gets with her that he didn't get with Sarah. So I think that that's just been beautiful to see that. And she even said, I think, that was in the one before, with his face, she like could tell he was lying, because when he was lying to Catherine O'Hara, she had seen that face when he told her about the hospital scene. So that just 9 months of that building up, and then having that beautiful moment on the porch where she came back out, and we weren't supposed to realize she was going to do that at first. So yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was the best part of the movie, or part of the episode. And then obviously we just see that very end credit scene. And I think it was just to remind us that this is where we are and this is where we'll be next week.
Okay. Cyber.
So the conclusion of the episode, it is just like everyone has kind of already mentioned. It's very emotional because Joel finally admits that he killed all those people to save Ellie. And just like everyone, I think that it's a very great moment. It's finally great to see Joel finally tell someone what he did and to get that off his chest. So I thought Pedro Pascal did a really fantastic job. I just can't get behind Bella Ramsey being good in that scene. I thought she was the same typical acting she's done throughout the whole series. So I think that definitely Pedro Pascal is the one that takes that scene to its ultimate depths, and makes it really powerful. And, you know, if you're a man and you've had kids or you ever wanted kids or you've had younger siblings or whatever, you know, you're going to get that feeling from that, you know, because it's like, you know, taking care of somebody, you know, you get that feeling, you feel that. And I feel that that's a broad feeling among, you know, among the men in the world. So I think that that's very emotional to lots of people, I feel, that, you know, really takes it into par and really makes it very, you know, outstanding compared to the rest of the episode. So I feel definitely this is probably the best scene throughout this whole entire season, I feel, and definitely the best out of this episode. Simply for the fact that, you know, finally he does come clean, which is great to finally see that and, you know, see why Ellie knows that already. And I just think that, you know, overall the episode was very much, you know, a, you know, filler / backstory that was kind of interesting, had some great moments, but overall I don't think it you know, it was really in the right place, like kind of like what everyone else has mentioned. Maybe this would have been more impactful if it had been episode 3 or episode 4. Most definitely, I have to agree with the members on the panel tonight with that, because I think that it definitely, because it's been a few weeks since Joel's death, it just doesn't have that same impact as it would have the, you know, week right after his death. So I think that this episode is a good idea, but it should have been earlier in the season. So at this point, I just feel like it was kind of, you know, unfitting for being the second to last episode of the season. So other than that, really great, impactful story there with Joel telling the truth, leading up to, you know, basically showing us where, you know, Bella is at this point. It's pretty, you know, pretty obvious that they would show us that. So a, you know, okay episode.
Okay, Cyber, thank you very much, sir. All right, let's do our 1 through 10 ratings on this episode, please, guys. I'll start with you, Lauren and Matt. What are your ratings on this one? Go ahead. Go first, Matt.
Man, I'm going to be honest. I thought it was a 9.5. I did. I really enjoyed that this episode. Wow. It's because of the acting, and it's showing the connection between the two of them, and it brought them closer together, and it's showing her motivations, which I feel like up until now, she hasn't portrayed the amount of anger that I'm used to seeing Ellie have in the video game. In the video game, she is full of rage and it ruins her relationships. This episode, had it been set right after his death, probably would have done better. That said, it was really good from the acting standpoints, from the story-driven standpoints. I thought they did an excellent job, and so that's why it's rated high for me. It's probably the second best of the entire season, in my opinion.
All right, Lauren.
I'm going to have to go 7 out of 10. I liked it. I very much so enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I felt like it dragged out a little bit. They could have had a little more action, or maybe brought us back into the present a little more. I mean, I don't know. I've never written a movie or a TV show, so what do I know? But, you know, season 1, I thought every episode was a 9 and up. But, yeah, I got to go 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, Lauren, 100%. Definitely, there's definitely been a difference with season 2 than season 1. Andres.
Yeah, sure. I'm kind of with Matt here. I'm a bit lower, a 9 out of 10, I have to say. I thought it was a really great episode. I'm not a big video game person, so I can differentiate, video game from, adaptation. And I thought this episode was a really great emotional episode. Look, if you just do 3 things, good writing and good acting and just a well-paced episode, then you get through this episode that isn't action-packed, stuff like that you usually get in these apocalypse shows like Monkey Dead and all that. So I can be forgiven. And this episode did a really good job of, answering the questions that we were kind of, for me and maybe some people, let me say that, me and some people that were kind of just wondering, okay, how the hell, Ellie, I almost forgot her name, Ellie, knowing Joel's, thing from first season, and then what was the whole thing with Eugene. I was very happy that we answered that, because if they didn't do that, I could have been even more pissed off and not like the season more. People know this, Matt knows this. we've seen this with so many of the other shows like Westworld. Like it just you cannot do that. You have to answer. I know it's not a big deal, but like it's a big deal for me. It's like so I was very happy about that. And this episode, I mean, I was shocked that this was the second time the creator directed this episode. I don't know what episode he directed, but it was a well directed episode. I thought he nailed it, and I thought he did a great direct of this episode. I have to say, I was appreciate the choice that he did. Like I liked that shot of like not hearing the gunshot. That was a really great choice because it's always cliche when you hear the shot, bam. It's like, oh, I was looking a little more by. It's like first you gotta do the bison man thing, like look at the flowers, and I'm like, I know that, I was happy where we went, and I was so happy and satisfied. And I do agree with the people. There is nitpicks. I do agree it should have been earlier than late. I don't understand that. It should be either episode 3 or 4. I do agree that because it is kind of weird. And and I do agree with Jeff that I kind of wish, like, I don't know, I don't understand this, but it could have easily done the 9 episodes thing just like first season. There's a lot of material they can do. So I'm very surprised we have to do 7 episodes. So I am curious why we do this and next week and justify this like episode count because it is kind of weird.
Okay, Cyber.
I give it a 6 out of 10. It did have some good moments, like I said. Other than that, it just was misplaced and should have been earlier in the season. So I give it a 6.
Okay, and I will give it an 8 myself. I did think it was a pretty solid episode, just a little bit slow and boring. All right, so that is our episode 6, The Last of Us Season 2 recap. Thanks again very much to everybody that came on tonight and jumped on the guest panel. But thank you very much to Matt and Lauren for making their first appearance with us tonight. We really appreciate it. And we will plug everybody out right now and go ahead and go over to whichever one of you guys of the two wants to rep Hops Geek News tonight. Go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, so we are Hops Geek News. Lauren and Matt, the two of us here. We've been doing this for a while. We talk pop culture and typically do a craft beer of the week. We've had a couple episodes this week where we did our Andor Season 2 wrap up, where we talked about Andor Season 2, of course. And then we got to chat with our friend Kenny, who is opening up an online comic shop later this year. And then on Mondays is when we always release a new episode. We have a really great interview with Jeremy Adams. He is currently writing Aquaman and Green Lantern Corps for DC Comics. And then he also wrote 3 of the best Supernatural episodes. If you're a fan of Supernatural, the TV show, we talk a lot about that. And then, so the easiest way to do that is just subscribe, searching our name. Linktree has all of the links and things like that. And we also do I am the lead for TV and film at nerdinitiative.com. And Lauren is in charge of the book club over there. And then both of us collectively also review comic books for nerdinitiative.com. So those are the places you can find us.
Okay, excellent. Appreciate all the information.
Cyber,
thanks for coming on tonight, brother. I know you came on a little bit late. Obviously you jump in and moderate on Andor, but I just had to step in while you were out tonight. But I'll go to you next, sir. If you want to jump in and do your thing.
All right, as always, folks, if you enjoy me here on the panel or if you enjoy me moderating and check out my solo content, you'll find me under Cyberneticshark. Get me on YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, pretty much anywhere there's a social media platform. See there, my most 2 recent reviews or videos there are my first Gene Hackman tribute movie review that I'll be doing. This one is the Poseidon Adventure, and it's a tribute video to him and all the goodness that the Poseidon Adventure is. So if you haven't seen that, check that out. Also, my most recent trailer reaction is for Predator Badlands, the teaser trailer they put out. Did a little take on that, so guys, go check that out too as well. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, definitely check those out too. My most recent short was for The Accountant 2, which is a great movie. If you have not seen it, check it out. Really fantastic. If you like the first one, you'll like the second one. I think the second one actually kind of outdoes the first film. I was actually a little more impressed with that one. Really great film. and of course, my Sinners mini review, full review of that coming soon for you guys. And of course, I'll be having more stuff for you guys soon. More stuff, more trailers, more movie reviews, all that kind of good stuff. So keep your eyes out. Appreciate you guys. Glad to have the Hop Geek News on tonight. Great to have you guys on tonight. Sorry we didn't have a proper introduction yet. Of course, I'm Cyberneticshark. And then of course, thanks to all the fans out there for watching us. Keep watching us here on the MCU's Bleeding Edge. Keep on subscribing to us, all of us, all our great content, and we appreciate you guys.
All right, thank you, Cyber. Andre's the pop culture guy.
Yes. I just want to say thank you, Matt and Warren, for coming. It was a blast. It was really fun. This was really fun live stream review of Last of Us. I just want to thank everyone for joining us today and joining the conversation. So yeah, this Andreas Pop Culture Guy channel says this is my channel where I do all the usual stuff of pop culture, reviews, television stuff like that, or tributes or top ranking stuff like that from all various pop culture stuff like comics, movies, or all those things. And recently, I'm mostly putting up a couple of reviews and tributes. Recently, you can check out my Sinners review on the 2025 movie. Fantastic. I did a short as well on that. You can check that out. And yesterday, I did the Star Wars Revenge of the Sith review for that for this 20th anniversary. Anyway, of this movie, 20 years. Fantastic movie. I mean, technically the best of the prequels, but I'm not gonna judge anyone.
My favorite Star Wars movie. I'm telling you.
Okay, awesome. I'm not gonna judge you guys if you like episode 1 or 2. I mean, they have their moments. And this Sunday, actually, I'm gonna have my next live stream review for the last for May, and it's gonna be the Thunderbolts. So me, Jeff, and Cyber, we're gonna review the movie, and it's actually one of the best MCU films recently. And I'm gonna say it's top tier, but not. It was really good. It was really fun. I was so happy. It was actually one of the best since Guardians 3. It was a character-driven movie, which was great. Highly recommend to see it. I really want that to be successful. But yeah, so that's my plans for now for this week. Just watch out for a couple things like James Bond related content is coming out soon because of Pre Brosnan had his birthday, so I'm gonna do a couple stuff for him, particularly ranking his movies of James Bond. So watch out for that. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, folks, we at the MCU's Bleeding Edge are back again on Friday for Andor episode 5. We'll have a lot of other new guest creators on that episode of Andor, so that'll be a lot of fun. We get to meet some other new people. And again, thanks to everybody that joined us tonight. Thanks to our guests. And we are out of here. So peace out, folks. We will see you in the next one, and laters.